Commissioners. It's 20-0759. Declare racism as a public health crisis in Montgomery County. And we have a proclamation here. Because it's a little lengthy, I'm going to read part of it, and the rest of the commissioners are going to read the rest. So it's a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis in Montgomery County. Whereas the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners is committed to equity and social justice for all citizens, including racial equity, inclusion, and diversity in all aspects of county government. Whereas Montgomery County identified racism as a root cause of poverty, negative social determinants of health, and overall poor health outcomes. And whereas race is a social construct with no biological basis. And whereas the Aspen Institute defines structural racism as a system in which public policies, institutional practices, cultural representations, and other norms work in various, often reinforcing ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. And whereas racism causes persistent discrimination and disparate outcomes in many areas of life, including housing, economic opportunity, infant mortality, employment, food access, and criminal justice. And an emerging body of research demonstrate that racism itself is a social determinant of health. And whereas while programs to address racial inequity have long been a priority of Montgomery County, more can and must be done in a transparent, accountable manner focused on community engagement. And whereas, as a result of social determinants of health, minorities and those with a disability are more likely to experience poor health outcomes, health inequities stemming from less economic stability, physical education, physical environment, food, and access to healthcare systems. And whereas the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners stands with the residents of Montgomery County and our partners at Public Health Dayton and Montgomery County in their Declaration of Health Equity in All Policies approach passed by Resolution 19-549 on December 4th, 2019. And now, Commissioner.
Okay, where am I starting?
Now there.
Okay. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners in Montgomery County, Ohio, that the following commitments are hereby adopted. Number one, assert that racism is a public health crisis affecting our entire county. Number two, continue and renew our focus on social justice and equity. Number three, progress as an equity and justice-oriented organization with the Board of County Commissioners and its leadership team continuing to identify specific activities to further enhance diversity and to ensure anti-racism. Principles across the Board of Commissioners leadership, staffing, training, and contracting. And number four, to promote equity and health equity through all policies approved by the Board of County Commissioners, and enhance educational efforts aimed at addressing and dismantling racism and understanding how it affects the delivery of human and social services, job training, and employment access, and economic development through development of a new standalone career and innovation center at the Westtown Shopping Center on West 3rd Street in Dayton. We will commit to existing and additional resources to the Montgomery County Micro Enterprise Grant Program targeted to small minority women and veteran-owned businesses. We will commit to targeted economic development resources to minority and disadvantaged neighborhoods in Montgomery County. We'll commit to address safe, affordable housing opportunities in the Black community. We will continue to address food insecurity, nutrition, and food access. We will commit to existing and additional resources to reduce infant mortality and increase maternal vitality in the Black community. We'll continue to, within applicable state law, provide greater access to local and diverse contracting wherever possible, and continue to advocate locally through the County Commissioners Association of Ohio and the National Association of Counties for relevant policies that improve health and well-being in racial and ethnic minority communities, and support local, state, regional, and federal initiatives that advance efforts to dismantle systemic racism. I'm going to see how much Carolyn has left here. Okay. We will further work to solidify alliances and partnerships with other organizations that are confronting racism, and encourage other local, state, regional, national entities to recognize racism as a public health crisis.
That was number 6, right?
You're on 7 now.
Okay. Support community efforts to amplify issues of racism and engage actively and authentically with racial and ethnic minority groups wherever they live in the county. To always promote and support policies that prioritize the health and well-being of all people, especially racial and ethnic minorities, by mitigating exposure to adverse childhood experiences. That includes to continue to expand the Male Leadership Academy, which was established as a pilot program in 2019, and we will establish a Female Leadership Academy to serve young women in the community. We will continue to an already existing racial equity and implicit bias training with the goal of reaching all Board of Commissioners staff. To encourage racial equity training among all community partners, grantees, vendors, and contractors. And the final one is to receive regular reports and updates from the county administrator and staff as directed to the Board of Commissioners on the progress of the commitments made in this resolution to facilitate ongoing community engagement and transparency, and to identify additional opportunities to further advance racial equity. Be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners supports all efforts in Montgomery County, the state of Ohio, and nationwide to address racism and public health disparities due to racial inequities. Be it further resolved that the Montgomery County Board of County Commissioners call upon the Governor, the Speaker of the Ohio House, and the Ohio Senate President to join with us to declare racism as a public health crisis and to enact equity in all policies of the state of Ohio. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the commission certify this resolution and make an image copy of the resolution available on the Montgomery County, Ohio website at www.mcohio.org.
Do you have anything else to add before
Sure.
we go to our public hearing on Chicken Bristle Road? Stay.
I do have a few comments to add. The resolution itself captures so much of, I know the three of us and our administration truly believes in, but, you know, I have a few more words to add. I am very pleased to vote yes on this resolution. The interesting thing is, 2 months ago, Michael, Franklin County passed this ordinance, and one of the Franklin County Commissioners called me and said, "Will you guys do this too?" And I said, "Well, we'll discuss it. But we want it to have some real meaning. We don't want to just declare, you know, and move on." So we've worked on this, and of course, then in the last couple weeks, it's become more of a priority. And so I just want to start by thanking Michael and your team, and I especially want to thank my commission assistant, John Theobald, who really put the words to paper here and really expressed, I believe, all three of our and our administration's thoughts around this. So, John, thank you. So the three of us have worked very hard, all of our time in elected office, I think, working for justice, and as commissioners who work to bring more resources and more community effort to reducing and eliminating poverty as a part of our vision for a more equitable society. The national outcry over the continued and far too often murder by law enforcement of black men and women in our country is long overdue. And it's truly it's a world outcry. It's not just a national outcry, it's a world outcry. And we believe this violence must end. I fully support the Black Lives Matter protesters in our communities and across the country, and all peaceful protest. And I am more than hopeful that we are going to make progress to eliminate racism. Many eyes have been opened, I believe, over the last few weeks. an awareness of racism and what it is, even if they didn't know that's what racism is. You know, they thought it was gone. And as we know, it's not. But more importantly, anti-racism is a growing term that we hear often, and we referenced it in our resolution. And the definition of anti-racism that we are using is the active process of identifying and eliminating racism by changing systems, organizational structures, policies and practices, and attitudes, so that power is redistributed and shared equitably. So it's my hope that this resolution that is filled, as I said before, with tangible, actionable items will foster change in our conversation in Montgomery County at our level, and I hope that it will filter to the rest of our jurisdictions and our whole state. These are not just words on paper. We really believe this, and I'm just very grateful that our resolution has real meaning and has action items that we're all committing to today to move forward. So that's all I'll say, Commissioner.
I'll say for you. I've talked before that Montgomery County has a true history of leading through collaboration and working with diverse people to solve problems. That's not new, but we have so much more to do. The task ahead may seem overwhelming at times. I mean, we're talking generations, hundreds of years that we're trying to turn the tide. But I truly believe each of us has the power to make a difference in the lives of others. It is like each of us. So it is really, the change has to start with each individual. We're talking about a collective approach. We are committed to doing more with our community partners and with our citizens to make real change in the community. That's why you have substantive things that we will measure ourselves against, and we hope to even add to the list as the years go by. I have to tell you that I have been moved by the pain and the outrage expressed by so many, not just in this community, not just in this state, not just in this country, but worldwide, over these especially past few weeks. And I have also been humbled by the outpouring of support for racial justice and equality. It is so long overdue. We must all be part of the solution. So I really extend a hand out to our community, to every individual in this community, to please really, really think what you can do on those moments when no one else is around, but you know, and that you can make a difference, and catch yourself if you're about to, you know, I hope it opens some hearts as well as some minds. While I know there is much work to be done, this is certainly a step in the right direction. And as Debbie already said, now it's time to put actions into words. Throughout all of this in recent days, I've been pretty quiet on it because I've been committed to listening. I think that's an important role, is to listen and learn and really, really hear people. And I think that's one of the changes in this recent period, is that people are really hearing. There's a lot of raw emotion out there, and that's based on life experiences. And so I hope we'll all listen and learn and change. So I am committed. We all three felt the same way. This is not about just going along with the crowd and putting words on a nice piece of paper and standing up there and saying we're all for this. This has deep meaning. And I pledge to all of our constituents that we will work hard to make these things happen. Even if we just move it a little bit at a time, we are going to move it in the right direction. So this is an important moment for me. My father was a principal in Dayton Public Schools, and I learned from an early age what this is all about. I was taught right, and he's no longer with us, neither is my mother, but I think he is smiling from above that we are doing the right thing. And I promise this county and our citizens, that you can be sure that we will take this to heart and we will be asking these questions of ourselves and trying to be the kind of partners that this community deserves. So it's an emotional moment for me, so I'll admit that, and I tend to be a little emotional at times. But this is a deep, abiding, this is an important resolution, and we mean to keep that pledge to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
You know, I think it's important that we acknowledge that there's an elephant in the room. 3 white women sitting here. It's something that we will never know, the 3 of us, the experience of racial discrimination in our community that so many people of color experience each and every day. But I think you should know that all 3 of us are going to be doing our part to listen, learn, engage our community and our leaders, and make meaningful changes. This resolution today is not in reaction to the death of George Floyd or the countless others, but it is a reaction to just basically the things that we have been working on for quite some time. And I know that our county administrator is going to be reporting back to us, and we're going to basically talk about this to our community. So we do have a lot of work to do, but I know the 3 of us are committed to making this happen. So thank you. Anybody have a motion to approve? Did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
First, I'd like to say, Commissioners,
Okay.
thank you for your leadership. It is very rare that you get government that actually really puts something behind something. And the fact that the 3 of you, you don't just have a resolution here, you have a resolution that says we are going to make investments. And I think today we also got the support of the business community in the Chamber of Commerce. And the West Dayton Career and Innovation Center is a multi-million-dollar investment. And we were fortunate, even with COVID, that we have now gotten partners from the state, from the Area 7 Workforce Board, which Commissioner Lieberman heads up, from the business community. So your leadership on this in looking at our expenditures, how do we better contract with minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses? How do we look at our hiring? How do we look at infant mortality and make sure that moms have a better chance with the little ones? How do we look at food insecurity that has been across our county as more and more of our grocery stores have closed? You have really put some meat on the bones of this resolution, and I commend all 3 of you for doing this. Thank you very much, and thanks, John, again, for helping with the writing. This is going to give us the ability to really do investments, and that will have a lasting impact on minority and underserved communities throughout our county. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
I move for approval.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up